monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. You know what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Daniel. What's going on, Daniel?
Was the summer of '84.
Oh, sorry. I've been waiting to sing that all day.
We're just going to loop that through. And alongside him is our good pal, Tony. What's going on, Tony?
What's up, brothers? How are we doing?
How you guys doing?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm ready to get into this, man. I'm so excited to talk about this film.
This is a fun one. So but I guess just real quick before we head into kind of where you can spot us and everything, just a quick history. A quick, I guess, subject. We are doing summer of '84, and I actually love this film. This is a film that Tony actually turned me on to, and immediately I was like, we got to do a review on this because this was fun. And I think even we turned you on to it too, Daniel, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. You were telling me about it, about how good it was. I need to check it out. And so I put it on my list. And you said you wanted to do a review of it. Didn't know we were doing one this soon. So I went ahead and rented it on Vudu. I started watching it today on lunch break. And then came home and finished it. I actually finished it with Kim, my wife. And
Nice.
She really enjoyed it too. She loves stuff like this, like crime dramas, serial killer dramas. You know, I love that stuff too. I honestly, going into the movie, I didn't read anything about it. I jumped right in, and I thought it was going to be more of like a slasher, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that it wasn't. And but you know, we'll definitely get into that.
Yeah, that's honestly the best way to get into it is just by not knowing anything, not hearing about the plot, and just jumping straight into it.
Yeah, I didn't know anything other than the title. I just jumped right in.
Well, that's something that was kind of your point, Tony, because we were sitting there watching it together, and you made a couple comments about how like engulfed into this film I was. Like I wasn't even talking or laughing throughout the entire film. I was honestly just soaking it up and taking it in. And that's just honestly down to how good this film actually was.
I found myself laughing a couple times at the dialogue. The dialogue was funny.
Yeah, I was laughing quite a bit, but I mean at the same time I was approaching this film very seriously because it captivated me really well.
You were laser focused, man. Laser focused into every little thing that was going on. And that's the way to do it because you just don't know where it's going to go. I mean we're going to get into that, but you think it's going to go one way, it ends up going this way, and it's just like, damn, like just when you thought you knew it was going to happen, they kind of throw something else at you. You're like, oh shit, okay, well, wow, that was surprising.
Yeah, and the overall like tone and atmosphere of the movie, you know, like I'm a big sucker for modern movies that take place in the 80s because they always do such a good job of recapturing that decade, you know. It is considered one of the best decade ever, and it's just the atmosphere, the you know, the lifestyles back then, the I guess the music, you know, everything they captured it really well in this movie, but they also didn't go too overboard with it, and they did a really good job of like starting off, you know, the movie was kind of a little happy-go-lucky, you know, and it just slowly, gradually got darker and darker, which we'll get into.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, and to that, you know, with you saying that they captured '84 really well in this film, honestly, the best way to describe it, and I think I described it to a coworker today. I honestly felt like I was watching a film that was remastered from '84. I mean, it almost looked that time period, like the cars, the bicycles that they rode, the hairstyles that they had, the music that was playing throughout the entire film,
Yeah.
all the way down to the way people were acting.
Mhm.
You know, I think there was even like one quote in the film where they were going over to check a neighbor's house, and the door was unlocked, and the kid was like acting surprised, and the other kids were like, "Why? No one locks their doors these days." It's like that is so true, because like back in the day, they probably didn't lock their fucking doors. You know?
Yeah. And it's really cool because this is kind of, I guess, an Easter egg, a hidden Easter egg. A lot of people don't know or wouldn't know, but like there's a scene where they're in the mall. In the background, you see an arcade of Polybius. And Polybius is like a very mysterious like arcade that came out back then. A lot of the legend, there's like an urban legend behind it where it talks about a lot of the game parts being used as a government-run crowdsourced psychology experiment in Oregon. If I'm not mistaken, the movie takes place in Oregon.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, so cool little Easter egg there.
That's neat.
And then there's even a little because when I saw the arcade, I was like, that I remember reading about that because I watched the whole video about like the urban legend behind it, and then it was there in the arcade. I was like, oh, that's freaking cool. And then I just now, after looking it up and reading about it, put two and two together that the movie takes place in Oregon, and so that's kind of cool. There's even a scene with there's a Reagan and Bush campaign sign on the lawn. Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty obvious one, but you know, just little things like that add up. It's really cool.
There's so much of it, man, and it really you zone in on it, like you try to pick out every little thing that's happening, like all the little references from the time period, and it's so much fun. It makes for a really fun watch. I mean, when you watch the film, you know, I've seen it a couple of times. You really go through and like pick out more and more and more things that are, you know, happening that, you know, for instance, I mean, I didn't even know about the arcade. That's cool. I didn't know about that. So that just adds a little bit more of it for me because that's just a cool story. That's a cool little piece of trivia. So,
yeah.
But man, there's just so much of it going on in here. I mean, even like the slang that they're using and, you know, I love the fact that, you know, you get these group of kids, like they're really close. You can feel the closeness in their group. They're really like really good friends. And, you know, they each have their character and, you know, throughout the film, it progresses and progresses and progresses. And these characters, you know, they kind of, you know, some of them evolve, and it's just there's a lot of that going on, dude. And it's really fun to watch throughout the whole. I mean, the movie it's a longer film, but it doesn't feel that way. It really flies by to me.
Yeah. There's also all kind of like pop culture references in the movie too, like there's Star Wars reference, Close Encounters reference. There was a Gremlins reference, you know, all kind of cool stuff like that. And it slowly slipped in there. I'm seeing one here. It's a reference to The Burbs, which actually didn't come out until 1989. But there's a character named Arthur Ray Peterson. Tom Hanks' character was Ray Peterson in The Burbs, and the movie takes place in the suburbs.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I love about the movie too, is that a lot of it takes place in this like cul-de-sac in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
So cool. Like, all these houses are like around each other because I mean it's a cul-de-sac, so they're like really close to each other. So and you feel that too with, you know, the neighborhood and stuff like that, the closeness of the neighbors. Like Corey mentioned about the, you know, leaving the doors unlocked because, you know, I mean, we grew up around these people. Like we're definitely gonna leave our doors unlocked. You know, we trust everybody here, and it really like, and it adds to more toward the end too when a certain thing happens that I guess we'll get into when we get there. But I mean, it adds more to that as well because you're like, we trust, you know, everybody around us and stuff like that. So it kind of adds to, you know, the I don't want to give it away just yet, but like I said, when we get into this, listeners, man, we're going to do heavy spoilers on this film. So if you haven't seen it, we definitely suggest you go out, seek it out, check it out on whatever streaming service you can find it on.
You can find it on Vudu right now for like $1.99 rental.
Yeah,
That's you can even like download it for what was it, $6.99?
mm-hmm.
I mean, to have
so.
the full download for it, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's $6.99.
And you won't be disappointed. This is actually a really good film.
No,
Yeah,
I even texted Daniel. I was like, "This is the best $2 we ever spent."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it.
So, I guess with that being said, we can jump right into it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess so. In the beginning, you basically follow a young gentleman by the name of Davy, and he's obviously, what would you say, like a newspaper boy?
Yeah,
I think.
Paperboy.
Yeah, he's a paper boy.
Another '80s reference.
Yeah, because they don't have those
Popular
these days.
Nintendo game.
Yeah.
That too.
But he's just riding around delivering papers, and he's talking about how you just don't know your neighbors, and then he's like, talking about how just you never know, one of them could be a serial killer.
Yeah.
And then pretty much the story just starts unfolding from there. You meet relatively quickly Mr. Mackey, his neighbor across the street, who is a kind of what would you say, like a middle-aged man that lives alone.
yeah.
He's also a police officer, and he's like asking for his help to carry some furniture down to the basement. And instantly, as an audience member, you start getting a very eerie feeling about this gentleman.
Mhm.
But
Right.
as an audience member, you're also made to feel this way,
Yeah.
and you just always seem to get a creepy vibe of Mr. Mackey, and the kids do as well. And essentially, as the story moves on, there's a serial killer in town. They're trying to figure out who the serial killer is. They think that Mr. Mackey is obviously the serial killer, and they're just trying to prove the case at this point.
Well, Davey gets suspicious when he sees one of the boys that was missing on the milk carton box. He swears he sees him over there at Mackey's house.
Yeah.
That's kind of what sparks the initial investigation with the kids.
Well, and the funny thing to that was, I think I even pointed out to Tony that I saw the kids like MTV shirt, and I was like, "Oh, that's a kick-ass shirt." And then later on down the road, that seemed to be quite a bit of evidence in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
I thought they did a good job of laying it on real thick that this guy was the killer. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I honestly thought it was smoke and mirrors at first. I thought they were trying to like make us believe that he was, and then boom, it was going to be somebody else. I really thought it was going to be that way.
Yeah. Well, in the back of my mind, I instantly picked up that okay, this is the guy. This has to be the guy. And then throughout, as the film's going on, I'm sitting here second guessing as an audience member. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. They're making him out to be. It's so obvious that it's him. There's no way. This is cinema. This never happens in a cinematic film,
Well, it's the red herring effect, right? The red herring effect. The film spells out as so obvious that this person is the one doing the killing that as an audience, as somebody watching the film, you keen in on this stuff, and you're like, okay, it's so obvious that it is this person that it's not. It's not going to be, and they're going to flip it on us and stuff like that. We're going to be shocked on the fact that it's not this person. So I think that was complete. Yeah, that was completely. That was a completely thing that they did that made you automatically assume that, hey, this person definitely is the person doing everything. And that was intentional, is what I'm trying to say. It was definitely intentional from the filmmakers, and I love the fact that they did that because they played to their horror audience. They know that horror fans are keen on that stuff, that we pick up on that stuff. So that was brilliant. I love that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
writers, that was excellent. Well done.
Yeah, this movie leaned heavy into like a progression kind of filming. Like I mentioned earlier, like it went into like it started out kind of happy-go-lucky. It's the '80s, we're all friends, blah blah blah, and then it just slowly gets darker and darker. It's kind of like what they did in Breaking Bad. Like as the seasons progressed, Walter White's clothing gets darker and darker. Like the beginning of the show, he's wearing like beige and teal shirts and stuff, and then like towards the end, when he's fully embraced the Heisenberg, he's wearing all black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
They did that with this movie, and I love it when they do that because it's like, I think that's really what captivates you the most when you watch a movie like this, and it's probably why you were so engrossed in the movie, is because it's very literally efficient. It's reeling you in. You know what I mean? Like it's not all over the place. It's easy to follow. It's interesting. They stick to the story. They stick to what their goal they're trying to accomplish in the movie, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
And it's just it was a wild ride, and even when they finally revealed 100% for a fact who the killer was, it was still interesting. It wasn't like oh really, that's a bummer. It's like it really took I think it took an even darker turn at that point.
I think the way the structure was laid out, that whole ending was earned. I really do. Like you feel like you earned it as an audience member. I love the fact that our main character Davey, they kind of set him up as he's a really big conspiracy theorist. So automatically, his group of friends, his parents, everybody just assumes that he's just wrapped up in conspiracy because he always wants something to happen in the town that nothing ever happens. Like he's so wrapped up on something happening in this town. So he takes the fact that there's a local serial killer terrorizing the area, and he really runs with that. And he, starts his own investigation with his friends who just follow him every step of the way, which is really cool. There's such a tight knit group. I know this movie came out, the same time, the It remake came out and Stranger Things. So we had this like 80s throwback aesthetic.
Yeah.
Had it going on in the last couple of years. So the fact that you follow this group of kids, to me, these kids were great because they really felt like they had a real genuineness to them. It wasn't something that was just written by writers and stuff like that for these kids to shout at. It seemed like these kids really had those personalities and that they really adopted those. So you just love seeing their interactions, all the stuff that they were doing together. They had this tree house and they would, kind of spy on, Mackie through the tree house and stuff like that. And they would map out how they were going to follow him, take notes of his routine, and that way they can keep an eye on him, to spy on him. I love the fact that it had a rear window kind of thing going on too, where Davey was kind of spying on him even at his house through his blinds and stuff like that. Really neat. I love movies that have that aesthetic, that have that going on. So that added to it for me as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like how there's this whole, so as a child, you seek out adventure, especially if you're, a young gentleman, you seek out adventure, and you want to include your friends, you want to incorporate your friends, and you want to have this big adventure with your friends. You see it in countless films. Even when I was growing up, I had, I wanted to have adventures and stuff like that. So it's really cool following this group of friends on this adventure and everything. And that's what it really feels like. It feels like they're on an adventure and they're just trying to prove a case. And whether or not they're right or wrong, they wanted to do this, Yeah. And that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah. Well, to me, I think about it like these kids felt like the Goonies kids, but put into a horror film. Like that's what it felt like to me. Like you took those characters and you put them into a horror premise and mystery, you threw a little mystery in there, and you hit blend, and this is what you get.
Yeah. I told my wife it reminded me of like Stranger Things, but with a serial killer instead of a Demogorgon.
Yeah, you go.
So it was It's you know, I'm with you there though. Like the dichotomy between the characters and the
It's great. It's great.
yeah, it's good. You know, like you could tell they all kind of belong to their own clique, but they don't.
They
You
don't,
know,
right.
so it's a little bit more realistic. You know what I mean? Because movies sometimes do like a bad job of just like over clicking kids. You know, like so when I was going into high school, I was scared to death that it's like, okay, what clique do I belong to? You know, when like you get to high school and it's kind of not like that. Like
Mhm.
it can be, but at the same time, it's like, you know, like I was friends with everybody. You know what I mean? Sure, there might have been some people I didn't like, but it wasn't like, you know, like the jock. I got along with the jock over here. I got along with the, you know, the emo kid over here. Like I didn't care. You know, that's kind of how the friends reminded me in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They all had their own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the typical, like the prototypical cool kid that would crack jokes and you know, wear the leather jacket, and then you had the nerdy kid, then you had the you know, the chubby kid, and I mean, you just had like it fit into the cliches, but it fit into the cliches, but these kids also brought a lot of like genuineness to their characters too, to where it
Mhm.
felt so realistic. And you just, I mean, the jokes and stuff like that, the mom jokes in here were cracking me up. I was
Yeah.
every every time they would bust. I felt so bad for Woody. They would bust on him all the time.
Oh man.
With the mom jokes, he's like, man, stop
Well,
talking about my mom.
well, you find
So,
out why he's kind of protective of his
yeah,
mom too, and
exactly.
that's something I wanted to bring up. You find out what's going on in their home lives as well.
Yeah,
You
man.
know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you had the kid that looks like Edward Furlong. You know, he
Kept calling him for long.
but his parents were fighting and on the verge of like, you know, a murder suicide or something.
That's
I think
what he
he even
said.
makes reference to that.
Right. He literally says that.
Yeah. And then you got, you know, Woody's mom who's like a raging alcoholic, you know. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it just looks like she's also a workaholic and she's
Yeah.
just trying her hardest to take care of a child herself.
He's a single parent. Right.
Yeah. And then you got yeah, what's the girl's name?
Nikki.
Oh, Nikki.
Yeah. Her parents
Yeah.
are getting a divorce and that's like apparently unheard of because she's like ashamed by it and stuff like that. So whereas to nowadays that's not, you know, that kind of happens more often than none. So
I gotta be honest. I guess a little disappointed, but at the same time, kind of relieved that my theory didn't come true about Nikki, because I really thought it was going to turn out Nikki was the killer.
Oh, wow.
But
interesting.
like she, you know, her parents are going through divorce. She's going through all this shit, and she had this like kind of I don't know, free spirited, you know, I don't give a damn attitude.
Yeah.
You know, like walking up at his house and stuff, and just drinking beer and all, and like I don't know, she kind of got a little too close with him. You know, it was
Yeah.
So, granted, I mean, she was doing that because she needed somebody to talk to. She needed a friend. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe she
Yeah.
had a little crush on him. Sure, she wasn't too much older than him. That I can recall. He's 15. Wasn't she? Maybe 17, 18?
17, 18, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she used to
Oh.
babysit. That was
Yeah.
babysitter, so. Mhm.
Right. But
Which is why I guess she felt so comfortable enough to just knock on his door and then go through his house without
yeah.
raid his
But
fridge.
right, and she kept showing up at like really weird times.
Mhm.
You know, so I was like, man, what if Nikki was the killer? That'd be so weird. But then,
That's
like when they finally went into Mackie's house, I was like, okay, she's definitely not.
For sure, yeah. And you know what's funny, Frost, you bring that up. I always thought when I first watched it, I honestly thought that Tom like Eats' brother was the killer. Kyle.
Kyle,
Arrow?
fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
I thought he was the killer. I really did. When I first saw it, I thought it was him because, like you said, like he killed. You know, the house was the environment that they were in. The family was always fighting. He was kind of like that just character that always popped up every once in a while. So it's like, I wonder if he could be the one actually doing all this. You know, kind of got a suspicious vibe from him a couple times.
That would have been awesome because I love it when they present a killer in a movie like this, or like a giallo or something, where kind of like a whodunit, where it's like it's a character that's kind of irrelevant, but he's there.
But he's there.
You know,
Yeah,
they did a good job with this. And what was that Denzel Washington movie, The Bone Collector? Where like the killer ended up being like the little doctor that came in to administer his drugs, and he might have been in like 2 scenes, and I don't even think it showed his face.
Yeah,
because he was always wearing a surgeon mask. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time since I watched that movie, but he was just like a little nobody character. Lo and behold, he's a freaking serial killer. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting when they do that. So that's what I thought they were going for when I first saw it. I first watched it because you get that thing where it's like, oh, this guy's obviously, they make it so obvious that he is the killer. He's not.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
so I just thought, I was kind of thinking outside the box when I first saw it. I'm like, maybe it's this guy, because I mean he's helping, he's helping Mackie with the dirt and everything. He works at the hardware store, so he's got access to stuff to use to dispose of bodies and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I mean that's what like sold me on it, but I was pleasantly surprised that I was wrong.
Yeah, same here.
Well,
and
you know what? And here's the thing, guys. Like, so I honestly, throughout the whole film, I felt that Mackie was the killer. The turning point for me was close to the end of the film, and I almost had, I guess you would say, I almost had a revelation, kind of like as if when the characters did as well, where they were like, oh, all the dirt's been for the fucking garden in the town square or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So he was
and
using
it's
it.
like, yeah, and everyone was like, this is off, it's bogus, he's not the killer. So they kind of just left Davey, to deal with this on his own. And at that moment, I was like, maybe he isn't the killer, So I guess I fell in the category of being tricked, But then
kind of lulls for a minute there, yeah.
So me personally, I didn't look at anyone else other than Mackie being the killer.
Yeah,
throughout the whole film.
Well, towards the beginning of the film, and I always like to do this when movies like this, I always try to guess who I think it might be. I don't know why I do that, but
I think we all do.
I honestly thought it could have been Davey's dad at first.
Yeah,
they alluded to him never being home because he's always working. He's a journalist, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it could have been one of those things where like the journalists / reporters reporting on killings from serial killer. He's a serial killer. You know what I mean? That would have been kind of cool. But going back to Mackie, whenever he went to visit him at his house to kind of like, hey, water under the bridge, which the music during that scene, I was telling my wife, was fantastic.
So tense, man.
It was so tense because it was like any minute you expected Mackie to just flip,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just had this insanely tense vibe to it, And then when he finally leaves, the music stops. Davey goes and uses the phone to I guess it's what, Star 99 is what we used to do.
Yeah, to see who he called.
Which nobody does anymore. Yeah, Mackie ended up calling his own house. I was like, okay, that's fishy as hell.
That's when I knew it was him. That moment is when I knew. I was like, okay, that's obvious right there.
Right.
When the obvious point for me, where I'm like, he's got to be the killer. There's no other explanation. The moment when they go and confront him, and he's like, "Oh, water under the bridge." No, these boys though, they have an imagination. He was just super nice about it. And me, like, if somebody came to me and was like saying, "I think you're the killer," I'd be kind of pissed. I'd be like, fuck you and your kid. Yeah, your little kid.
You little son of a bitch.
You're gonna clean up this garbage, and you're gonna fucking replant my garden, you little asshole.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's okay. Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, he was super like chill.
I guess maybe I would have been different in 1984, but right now I'd have been like, no, hell no. We're calling the homeowners association. We're gonna get this squared away. You're paying for everything.
Well, that's that's another thing too. They call him the Cape May Slayer. He only preys on like like boys that are like 15 to like in that age range, like 14, 15, 16. So like
Yeah.
he's very selective about his like
Mm.
his victims and stuff like that, which is really bizarre and just really crazy. So I mean, it fits to the the plot because these kids are all in that age range, so they're like constantly like, well, even when he first tells his friends like, hey man, there's a serial killer going on, this is the biggest thing that's happened in this town since I can remember, I'm so excited. And they're like, dude, why are you excited? Like, we're like potential victims because we're in that age range. I mean, we could be snuffed out. And he's like, oh man, no, this is too big of a town. Like, we're not in any danger whatsoever. And they're like, I don't know, dude. Like, we could definitely be in danger, you know.
Yeah.
So
I don't think his MO is weird. Like if you research any like serial killers, they all kind of follow a pattern.
Right.
You know, like Arthur Shawcross, he killed like 2 kids at first, and then he went to sex workers, and then John Wayne Gacy was mostly like teenage boys, which I really think this movie might have been modeled kind of after John Wayne Gacy.
I wanted to bring that point up. Yeah, exactly.
Because John Wayne Gacy was a very light guy in his neighborhood.
Yep.
He had friends in the police. John Mackey happened to be a police officer. You know, he had a secret room in his basement. You know, he was very inviting. You know, John Wayne Gacy was a very light guy. He was weird.
Well,
know,
he hid the bodies under his floorboards.
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy, but there was a lot of similarities between Mackey and Gacy, though. I will say that.
Yeah,
and I mean, you had Ted Bundy vibes going on because Mackey was driving the same kind of car Ted Bundy would drive, like Volkswagen.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
that is true.
Car.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of they took a lot of inspiration from certain serial
killers.
Yeah.
Another point that I wanted to bring up, and Tony, you kind of hit on this a little bit, but so the age range was between what 12 and 16. I think
12
it was
16, somewhere in there. Yeah, like
So here's the thing. Okay, none of these parents kept these kids in at night. They're like, oh yeah, go play in the neighborhood late at night.
Yeah,
There's a serial killer. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna go play Manhunt. Okay, sounds safe.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, man. Yeah, I didn't even.
I'd be like, oh, there's a serial killer on the loose. No, I'm barring the windows.
I'm keeping the kids locked up.
We'll be here watching Punky Brewster.
Yeah, man,
All
that's
of the family.
That's legit. That's legit, man. The tension, just
you know what,
really tense scenes in the movie.
There was another scene that I really loved. That again, it instantly gave off serial killer vibes for me. Was the scene with the walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where he's like watching Mackey's house through his window with the binoculars.
Oh, yeah.
And he glances over and boom, Mackey is in the window with the binoculars, and he instantly like freaks out and jumps down.
Oh, dude,
and when he looks back, the only thing that's sitting there is Davy's walkie-talkie, and it's like, oh man, that's fucking eerie.
Yeah,
and you even pointed out that was similar to Fright Night.
Yeah,
Tony.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I got a Fright Night vibe from that too. Yeah, because I mean, it's the Rear Window thing. It kind of falls into it because that movie was, you know, Fright Night was, you know, influenced by, you know, Rear Window as a lot of other films were. Like Disturbia was. Yeah, there's a lot of films that fell into that kind of like category. So yeah, I definitely did get vibes from that. Which I was kind of looking it up, and you know, there's a scene when you know, he's at Mackey's house, and Mackey was talking to him, and he was saying, hey, you know, I got these old, I know you guys don't get a lot of, you know, pickups on the walkie-talkies. I got some old police walkie-talkies that collecting dust in here if you want them. So I felt like uneasy because he was trying to get him into the house.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, yeah, you know, but I noticed something he said, and I was looking it up, the trivia, and he said something about, the frequency's great on it. They'll pick up anything. So I'm thinking, you know, when I was reading the trivia, somebody pointed out that, hey, Mackey could be picking up on their conversations with these walkie-talkies.
Yep. Yeah, I
That
thought
was-
about that throughout the film, especially in
That-
that short moment.
Yeah, that was really
He's been
fascinating.
listening in the whole time.
Yeah.
I
That's
didn't
probably
think-
why he had already chosen Davy as his victim.
Yeah,
I feel like
Well-
he had a picture of him on his wall.
dude, and that's another thing that's fucking eerie as fuck, dude. Like he had a picture of all his victims on his wall, and when he first went in the house to help him, he honestly thought that was his family members. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you got a family," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess so." He said, "I guess so." I'm like, "Dude, that's fucked."
Yeah.
That is really creepy, dude. I love
Yeah.
that shit, man. Like, oh, that added so much to it. Because at the end, when that realization hit, like, these are all his victims, and then he saw his picture with his family on the wall too. I was like, oh fuck, man.
Didn't they do a Jaws effect right there? The infamous Jaws effect with the camera. But
The
they
Jaws.
pulled it off. Yeah, you know where Chief Brody is on the beach and he sees the little boy attacked by the shark.
Oh, it zooms
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's-
it
Mhm.
was like an effect. He was like zooming in and zooming out at the same time with the camera.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
I-
well, he's like getting him in, like, fully in frame and in focus.
Yeah,
And his reaction was just like, holy fuck. Like, it was, that realization hit, like, oh shit, man, I'm glad I did
Yep.
this because I would have been next. And my parents would have been next too because, like, he killed like a family. Like, because they said it went down and, the killer didn't just kill the kid, he killed the whole family. I'm like, oh fuck, man.
he had a
Like-
couple. He had a couple families on there. Couple
Yeah, he did.
pictures, like not just one or two.
Well, when the news, I picked up on when the news first broke, they said that this killer had been, had killed like what 12 people up until that point when he first started calling in saying that he was the killer and everything like that, and sending, I think he was sending letters in. So he had been fully established as a killer beforehand. And
Yeah.
even
Which that's
Davey asked Faraday, he's like, I wonder why he would just now be, going in, sending letters to the police, telling them that he's the killer and this and that. And Faraday's like, I think it was one of the two that's like, oh, well, he's probably just bored now. He wants a challenge. He wants to be kind of challenged and caught. I was
Well,
like,
Yeah.
most killers start to get a little cocky, and
yeah.
ultimately any killer that starts doing that wants to start getting recognition for their work. They want to be
Yeah.
famous.
yeah.
So
BTK did that. He'd send in letters
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. Like he did
But
all kind of
the
like
majority of them do. There's a lot of
Yeah.
going back in history, a lot of
Dude,
serial
Jack-
killers either contact the police and start giving them a little bit of evidence to kind
Yeah,
of
dude,
tag them along, or the media.
Jack the Ripper, man. Yeah, he
Yep.
was Jack the Ripper did it. I mean, that was a real famous one. He would send
Yeah.
them letters.
well, the serial killers get to a point too where they just go off the rails and
Oh, yeah.
start just doing, like you said, they're cocky. They think they can get away with anything, so they start doing whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think Ted Bundy got to a point where he was trying to kill 2 victims at once. And
Mhm.
you had Jeffrey Dahmer, even like he started out just strictly killing, and then it became cannibalism. He was actually finding ways to boil the heads of his victims and all. Like,
I want to turn them into zombies or something.
yeah, he had a bone shrine, for God's sake.
That's fucking crazy, dude. But to me, Mackie epitomizes like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like he is such a, outside in the public, he's such a nice dude. Everybody likes him. He's very nice to everybody. He pitches in, he does a lot for the neighborhood but just like his dark personality is like evil, man. Like super fucking evil.
Yeah, that's
So-
a lot of serial killers. BTK was a church leader.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's that contrast is just so eerie that people are out there like that, man.
Yeah.
They come off humble and nice in public, and then behind the scenes. And they even mention that a lot in the movie, where it's like you just never know who your neighbor is, or never know. There was a wonderful scene where Davey and his family is sitting down and watching TV, and they're sitting with the TV dinners, like they're eating like a macaroni and cheese dinner.
Mhm.
on their little TV trays watching TV and stuff like that, and they're talking about Davy's, his Nikki, his crush, so to speak, the
Yeah.
baby, and the dad's like, oh well, she's not going to be able to do it. She's supposed to be DJing the I can't remember what it was called. It was like a festival that they have, and he's like, oh well, she's not going to be able to do it. Her parents are getting a divorce. And everybody's kind of shocked. They're like, where'd you hear that? And he's like, oh, I heard it from work. The guy I talked to at work told me that was, that they were getting a divorce. Things weren't going well. And he's like, that's crazy. I can't believe, they seem so nice and they seem so, it seemed like a happy family. He's like, well, that's why they invented curtains. I'm like, wow, man, fucking, yeah, that really hits home.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because they make reference to you never know what's going on in somebody's house or behind their door.
they make tons of references like that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbors across the street have a cemetery.
Oh God.
I'd like to know why. I'm guessing it's family that passed away. I just
That
don't want to
blew my
walk
mind.
outside one day and see a ghost walking down my street. That'd be pretty, that would suck.
or
Pretty
or
gnarly.
or a zombie.
Or a zombie, right?
Yeah, I think I'd rather see a ghost than a zombie. Because if I see a zombie, I got to put it down, and ammo's just expensive.
The ghost is already put down. He's just he's not gonna do anything.
He's just a pest.
There.
Yeah, he's just a pest.
Quit opening my cabinets, jackass.
He's not gonna tell you eat your brains or anything.
Yeah.
Wait a minute now. If you've got cabinets opening, you might want to think about something else. Dark skies.
All right, that's just fucked up, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark cat. My cat's opening the cabinets. Fat ass.
Oh shit. But yeah, dude. So I gotta ask you guys, who was your out of the group of kids, who was your favorite character?
Ooh.
I automatically had to say Eats.
Yeah, dude. Eats was great.
He was so funny.
That's the
He
Ed,
really was,
Ed Furlong, right? That's the Ed Furlong character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
feel like
dude was awesome.
I feel like he's just destined to be a comedian when he gets older.
Oh yeah.
Always cracking jokes, and in spite of having like a really shitty home life.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of reminded me of like the Wes of our group. With all the dirty jokes.
Oh yeah. He had mom jokes for days, dude. He was like launching them out.
I think my favorite is when they were spying on Nikki with the binoculars.
Yeah.
He goes, if I were over there, she'd be pregnant. Jesus.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, and that's another thing. Like, it fits the way that teenage boys would talk to each other. Like, you would talk to your friends that way.
Yeah.
Like, you would say nasty shit. Like, that's just what you would do as a teenage boy. So, I mean, that fit perfectly because all the jokes and stuff I've heard it before. In my group of friends,
Absolutely.
we did shit like that all the time, dude. So
I like how he was constantly snagging up porn magazines.
yeah, but he went in the library and he took the National Geographic.
He's like free porn.
Damn.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he was probably, growing up, he's probably going to become a porn addict. He was snatching pornos left and right.
So a comedian.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he was definitely my favorite character. I love his jokes. Shit was hilarious, man.
As far as charisma between characters, who would you guys pick? Like as far as like two characters that were involved with each other.
It's hard not to choose Davy and Woody just because like they were really, really good friends, which made the ending that much more like depressing.
Yeah,
it was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, you build these characters up, and you could tell they're genuine friends. Like he would come over to his house because he couldn't be over, at his house. He was kind of sad and kind of bummed out and stuff like that. He just wanted to go to his house and chill. And that happened a couple times because even Faraday and Eats had that kind of relationship too, where Eats is like, "Hey man, can I come over?" He's like, "Parents fighting again." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I just don't want to be there to see all that and stuff like that." So you could tell that they kind of had the same kind of relationship where he would spend the night over at his house all the time, just to kind of, you know.
You could definitely tell. You could definitely tell that Eats and Faraday was more close to each other than Woody and Davy, and vice versa. Woody and Davy were definitely, because I think even Davy probably knew what was going on in Woody's life, because at one point he was like, "Why didn't you come over last night?" And he was like, my mom needed me last night."
Yeah,
and so it's like,
he wasn't trying to push the issue where he's like, "Oh, dude, completely understand." Like that's true friendship right there, man.
So it's like they knew, but because like through where they were joking around in the treehouse, and Faraday was making jokes about Woody's mom, and Woody got super defensive real fast. Yeah. You could see that obviously Woody isn't open to telling everything about his life to all the rest of his friends.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think the bond between Woody and Davy is like really strong, and I choose them for that. Like I genuinely like their friendship, and it does build up to a sadder ending,
Because you got to think about it when they're going in. So at the toward the end, when Davy's going into Mackey's house to try to film to see if he's actually got bodies in his basement, and Woody's just supposed to be like out there, kind of like keeping an eye, making sure no one gets to the house, or like Mackie doesn't come home or anything like that. But he chooses to go inside the house with him. And he's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, I'm the one taking the risk. You don't have to come." He's like, "You can stay out there if you want." He's like, "Man, I'm not gonna let my best friend go into a serial killer's house by himself." I'm like you could tell that was his boy, like he was down for him and shit. So definitely like their friendship was really tight, dude. You could definitely tell they had like a different connection out of the group, and so did like Eats and Faraday. It seemed like they had their own connection too.
You can definitely tell in that moment. You can definitely tell who was genuinely friends.
Yeah,
because even like Nikki joins the fellas in the house.
Yeah,
the other two were like, "I'm done with this situation." They were already done with the situation when they were discussing it in the bedroom. They were going along with it because they're buddies, with them. But at the end of the day, you could definitely tell that they were just already done with the situation. They didn't want to be a part of it anymore. They got caught, and then supposedly the killer had been caught by Mackie miraculously. So they were just done with the whole situation. They wanted to wash their hands of the situation, but Davey wanted to push just one more time because he knew that there was something down in that basement. He had a gut feeling, and he wanted to go for it. And ultimately, I think Woody was mainly the one that was there for him.
Well, and you kind of root for Davy's character too, because everybody's like shitting on him, like, "Oh, dude, you're crazy. There's no way." Like this and that. He's like completely convinced. He's trying to tell everybody that, like, he is the guy that everybody's looking for. Like, this is it, man. Everybody's shitting on him though. They don't want to believe him. He has to like defend himself, and from everybody's like, "Dude, just give it up, just give it up." And he's like, "No." He's like, "I really believe that he's the guy." So you really have to appreciate his resolve, because most kids would have been like, "All right, fine. Our summer's ruined. We didn't get to do, we had a fun time kind of spying on this dude, playing cops pretty much. And but I don't want to get my friends in trouble and stuff like that." But no, he's like still like completely convinced that he's got his guy. Like he knows what he saw, and he's not going to let anybody deter him from that. So you got to respect his resolve, dude.
Yeah.
Definitely do, and I got to tell you, man, and I think Corey can vouch for this. Nikki had the best jump scares in the movie.
She scared the shit out of me in a bunch of scenes.
Why do you keep doing that to us?
she definitely had the best jump scares, man. She was on point.
What about the little dude that was tied up in the basement? I think that one got me.
Yeah, that was rough, dude. But then when you saw the body in the bathtub, holy shit!
Ugh.
Like that was gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so decomposed and shit.
What really like surprised me at this movie was, in a way, how realistic it was.
Yeah.
Just how like they got the video footage. They actually stopped to grab a video camera to record. They recorded as they went down there, and they went straight to the police. Most movies, it's like they don't even get a chance to get to the police, or they don't even think to go to the police. Like there's also real life stories that I've heard where like these women just getting brutally beaten and abused and just never go to the police ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've heard my favorite stories.
Yeah, like
they had the wherewithal to take that footage straight to the police.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm happy that this film didn't fall under the clichéness of anything, because instantly, as they were down in that basement, the whole time I was waiting for Mackie to pop up and just, I was waiting for that moment. And I guess that was the moment where when that gentleman that was locked up in the basement grabbed a hold of, I think Woody's leg, I think it was, and I thought that was the moment that Mackie caught them in his house, and then lo and behold, I think subconsciously Mackie knew that they were obviously onto him, so I think he had already planned, kind of an escape route.
Yeah, because you could tell, like, after the festival, he just disappeared. Like, as soon as they went to the cops, he vanished. He completely vanished. And nobody knew where.
He probably came home and saw that, because they probably got out of there fast. They probably didn't lock any doors behind them. They probably didn't even think to close the front door as they were exiting out of the house. They just got the hell out of there.
Well, this was during a time where people didn't really lock their doors either.
Oh, didn't lock the door. It's funny because they broke in. They jimmied the window to get inside the house. You probably would have just went to the front door. Like they said earlier, all the doors were open. Like, no one locks their doors in this neighborhood. Who knows, man? Mackie could have been so cocky, he could have just left his door unlocked. I don't know. He could have been so convinced that everybody didn't think he was the guy that he's just like fucking completely cocky, just leaving his door. Who knows? It's interesting, but how cocky did he get? Because you could tell he was getting a little cocky because he was toying with the police. his police force, which is crazy.
I liked his demeanor, because there was even one scene where I caught on to where he was like sitting there watching the kids playing in the cul-de-sac or whatever they were playing, like tag football, and he called everyone up to his house to give them popsicles, and he's laughing and giggling with them. And as soon as they walk away and they weren't paying attention to him anymore, he was just like glaring into their souls, and it's just like, God, that's fucking dark right there. Like, that guy is dark.
The guy that played Mackie with Rich Sommer, he was awesome. He was really fantastic.
Yeah, he really was. I actually recognized him immediately. He had a small cameo in The Office.
The Office, nice.
Did he?
Yeah, or a small part. Yeah. He was one of Pam's friends when she went to art college. She was like kind of traveling long distance to go to art college, and he was like her little friend. He's basically like a fat version of Jim.
Well, I know he did Mad Men. He was on Mad Men. I never watched Mad Men, but I know he had a part in that show. That's where most people kind of recognize him from. So,
well, yeah, he's a really good actor. He was very, very good in this movie.
His lines at the end when he was talking to Davey, holy shit, man, that should give me chills.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Dude.
He didn't kill him. He said, "I'm gonna let you live."
Oh, but the reason he did kill him, the reason he wanted to keep him alive was really fucking dark, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. In your opinion, guys, do you think he would have actually? Because he actually says, "I wasn't going to fuck with you. I wasn't going to kill you." Do you actually believe that?
No, I truly believe, because at the beginning of the movie, he had an opportunity. He had him in his house all by himself. And
a couple times when he could have killed him.
A couple times, and he just let him go because I think he genuinely liked him. I really do. I think but the only reason he got to that point was because he wouldn't let up. He would not leave him alone. And he was
Yeah.
constantly harassing him and constantly trying to get everybody to believe that he was the killer.
So
So he,
his picture was on his wall.
right. And I really truly believe, because that was after all that shit went down, where his dad brought the boys over and they explained to him that, they did that to his garden. They tore up everything. Like, they did all that because they thought he was a killer. So I think at that point he kind of got frustrated. And even then, when he was kind of giving him shit, when he went up to his door and he's like, "Hey man, can we bury the hatchet? I don't want any bad blood between me and you." He's like, "I really like you, man. You're a good kid. You remind me a lot of me," and stuff like that. So, I really believe that he genuinely liked the dude, Davey. I think he really liked the kid, but he just wouldn't let up. So he felt like he had to react, and he had to do something. So,
Or maybe he couldn't ritualistically kill him like he had been doing his victims.
Yeah.
But then again, could Mackie have been at that point? Like most serial killers, where they just get to a point where they don't give a shit, and they think they can get away with anything.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it was cockiness, man. I think he kind of he started writing to the police. He started telling everybody about his crimes and everything like that because he wanted. I don't know if it was the recognition. I know that's been brought up, or the fact that he's just getting cocky. He's like, "Well, I haven't been caught yet, so I'm kind of upping the stakes a little bit, Which is funny because, like I said, he's a cop, so he knows how this whole thing goes. Like he was involved, and I love how after they suspected him and all that was out in the open, and he came in, he called a number, and it was his own number. After that, he was the one that found out who the serial killer was. So it was a big coincidence.
Yeah, at that point, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, this dude. I thought at that point in the movie, I thought maybe there had been two. I thought maybe that he was an accomplice to the killer.
I could see that, yeah.
And maybe feared the killer, so he was helping the killer. But then he turned out to be the killer, so I was like, okay, well. Now, the cool thing is, too, even though we kind of get that he's the killer throughout the whole movie, and it's revealed at the end that he is, you can almost say that this movie was kind of maybe a character study in a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
On a very light side,
Yeah, I wish we would have got a little bit more, honestly, because he was such a fascinating character. I wish we kind of got a little bit more.
Yeah, so when they first break into the room in the basement in his house, there's like a little note there that says, it's like a note from his dad. That says something about, keep up the good work, slugger, or something,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of alluding to his past, but they don't really explain,
Well, that was the fascinating thing, was when they originally broke into that locked room in his basement, it was almost his childhood room, but it had been in a state of decay. Like it was all dirty, like everything was all old and just falling apart. It was just really just bizarre. It was really bizarre.
Which kind of brings you to, was he a neglected child growing up? Is this the way he is? Why he is, because of the way he may have grown up. Like, was he in a locked room in the basement? Was that an exact replica of his childhood?
I mean, absolutely could have been, dude.
You hear these horror stories where these people have been locked up, and they're like 30 years old, but they act like they're 5 years old because they don't know anything.
Yeah, they never really had a childhood, so they never experienced anything like that. So they're perpetually living in a state of, being young, but they just don't know, like they didn't experience the loving, fun childhood that most kids do. So, I mean, that's why it's so fascinating, because you can take it in many different directions. You don't know. It's almost like it has to be left into interpretation. Like you interpret it the way you feel like it happened. So I like that, though. I really dig that. At the end of the day, it'd been nice to get a little bit more character, but the fact that we don't, you have to kind of think about it on your own, opens up the floor to discussions like this that we're having. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that I really love about this film is they don't so much focus on the killer. There is a killer there, and yes, they're trying to figure it out, and that's the main plot of the film. However, this is really a character development all the way around if you think about it. These kids, they start out as just kids, but then they turn into something way more. Essentially, they're detectives. They're figuring out a whole murder mystery. They're growing. You can see how they're they're developing. So yeah, this is, in my opinion, this is a character development, and I love character development films.
Yeah,
Right.
study on these kids, yeah, and then their the different personalities and stuff like that, and what they start. At the beginning, I know Daniel alluded to this. The tone kind of shifts. In the beginning, it's a lot more lighthearted and stuff like that, and it gradually gets darker and darker and darker. And I dig that. And then it crescendos to that ending, and it's like, oh my god, dude! It's like you almost have to step back and just take a breath. Like, fuck, like just you just experience that, and you're like, man, I can't believe that happened. I really can't believe that happened. And it's so sad, especially when he says what he says to his buddy. What he tells his friend, like Davey, he's like, I can't die tonight, man. My mom needs me. It's so fucking sad, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but you know what? No, like you said, it really hits, I guess, close to home because that. What about all those other victims that died? You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Like serial killers it's a real thing. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to watch a movie about, this giant man-eating beast from like ancient Egypt or some shit, or this giant gorilla terrorizing Manhattan or whatever. But like, it's another thing when you watch a movie like this because it's like, whoa, shit! Like this stuff really happens. It has happened.
Yeah, it really happens, and it's happening today, and it's been happening for a long damn time. So yeah, it hits home a little different for the viewers and stuff like that. You think about it a little different. This is not some fiction. This is stuff that really happens in life. So kind of creepy.
But great movie. It ends on a note where it could maybe have a sequel in the future. I don't think there ever will be.
I hope
maybe like summer of '85. Like that would be interesting. I don't know if they could follow up.
Well, and to your point, honestly, if it was just a standalone, I would be okay because again, character development. And I'm going to bring this point up. So in the end, where Mackie is like, I never wanted to kill you, and I'm going to leave you in the constant fear of you're never going to know when I'm going to come back, but just know I'm going to come back. And you see him in his room, like curled up, like this traumatized him. Like death would have been the easier way out at this point. And you can see that Davey almost had to grow from this and overcome it. And then you see him delivering paper again, so it's like a sense of, it made him stronger as a person.
Yeah. And then you could see that his relationship with Faraday and Eats has changed too. Like they're not on good terms anymore, and they're not close anymore. And you could just tell by their mannerisms. They're outside and they're, Eats is like destroying the clubhouse, and he's just tearing it apart and throwing it in the yard and stuff like that. Faraday's just kind of following him up, and Davey hardly looks at him. Like he because that disconnect is there. Their friendship is strained, and it's so sad, dude. Because they were so close, and everybody was a great, collective, group of friends, and that is just ruined because of this tragic event that's happened.
Yeah, that's real shit, man.
It really is, man. It's so sad.
So, yep, be on the lookout for the sequel, Summer of '85.
Summer of '85.
And then Summer of +86, Mackie Takes Manhattan. and then Summer of '87, The Resurrection. Then and then the fifth one is actually just going to be called Summer of '84. Just gonna go back to the roots.
It's going to be a reimagining.
Oh, dude, that Mackie Takes Manhattan.
That's great.
Oh my god, that was awesome. But yeah, you couldn't tell.
The tagline will be The tagline will be, "You never know when I'm coming."
And underneath, that's what she said.
Oh,
Oh God! If you couldn't tell, listeners, we love this movie. We highly recommend it.
this is a good film.
Hopefully, you cut it off when we didn't, and you went and watched it and came back to us to hear our thoughts on it before you listened on. We don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, this is a blast. Great film. I think I think it's accessible to a lot of people because it's not your prototypical horror film. It's got that mystery angle. It's got that detective angle. It's got all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
I really think a lot of even mainstream audiences would dig this. They would really enjoy it because they would like to be in on the mystery and try to figure it out on their own too.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those films that when we cover a lot of films on the podcast, and this one's really accessible, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Check it out. Definitely check it out. Highly recommended.
It's a fun one.
Yep.
I love this film. I already made plans on buying it.
Yeah, what's funny is I have the only way I could get it was like a burned Blu-ray, so it's not
Mhm.
even like a real official Blu-ray. But I mean, when we were talking about it, when we were watching it, I mean, the picture looks amazing, dude. The HD's fantastic.
The quality is gorgeous.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Like the sound quality's good, the picture quality's excellent. I mean, it's really, really good burn on demand disc, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but like I said, it's out there. I don't know. I bought that a while ago. I don't know if it's still readily available or not. I haven't checked it out. But like I said, if you just want to rent it, you can rent it on Vudu, and I'm sure there's some other streaming services out there that you can check it out on. But definitely do it. It's a fun one.
Yep.
Landed this plane.
Yeah, I think so.
Hitting the runway.
Daniel, you want to take that away?
Sure. Let's do it. You have been listening to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. We thank you so much. For all you YouTube listeners out there, we greatly appreciate it. We've seen, once again, we've seen a lot of growth on YouTube. We ask that, if you want us to continue to grow, putting content out for your ear holes, just like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Be like, hey, heard you like podcasts. Check us out, or check these guys out, and send a link. That would be awesome. We greatly appreciate that. We are on podcast outlets as well: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. Just be sure to leave us iHeartRadio. Be sure to leave us a review, a comment. We greatly appreciate that. It would help grow the show. If you want to follow us on the socials, we do have a Facebook group. Go to facebook.com, go to the search bar, type in the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. It is a closed group, but ask nicely. We will let you in. At least I will. If Corey gets a hold of you, you might disappear and end up on a milk carton.
Yep.
We do have a Twitter. Monster_Corner is where you can find us there on Twitter. And then we do have a TikTok as well, Midnight Monster 20. So be sure to follow us there. Also, Corey and Tony did a cool little thing with HorrorPack. If you don't know what HorrorPack is, it is a monthly subscription, or you can pay annually as well, and you get Blu-rays through the mail of horror Blu-rays. And sometimes it's just random. And you guys did an unboxing of it?
Yeah, we did. We did like a February unboxing of it, and it was pretty cool. We basically got 3 just random films and 1 exclusive film that I guess like HorrorPack actually puts out, and it's really cool because not only do you get the exclusive film, but you also get like their cover art and stuff. That's the only place that you'll be able to get that, so that's pretty cool.
It's definitely sick. Hopefully, we'll continue to do more of those. That was a really, really fun time. Enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yeah, so be sure you check out HorrorPack if you're looking to add some more movies to your collection. I know that was something I've been looking into just because, I've been busy lately putting in some overtime. Haven't really had a chance to go movie shopping. But why not subscribe to a movie service? Let them send the movies to you. That's the way I
You-
look at it. And a lot of cool movies, a lot of just fun, underrated movies even can come
Yeah.
to you.
Gems
So-
in there, some indie stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, some studio stuff. I mean, they really just cover all the bases.
If you're listening to this episode right now, the Zombie Roulette audio episode is officially live. So I'm sure you check that out. And then the latest episode on Wrong Turn should be up either today or tomorrow. If you're listening,
It'll be up.
It'll probably already be up by the time you listen to this
Yeah,
episode.
it's already going to be up. I'm going to get it out tonight, actually.
Okay, cool. So that is us. Unless you gentlemen have something to add, we are out of here.
That was perfect, man. Thanks, guys. Later.
Later, guys.
Later.
This will